welcome back. Another Tuesday night, another episode of the BBQ Pit. I am your host, Michael Lynch. We are here today to talk UFC 277. Juliana Pena, we're going to defend her title against Amanda Nunes in that immediate rematch. Brandon Moreno taking on KaraFrance, likely going to be a number one contender slot for that weight class. We're going to kick it right off. Juliana Pena will be the 12th time that's in UFC history the champion comes into the fight as the underdog. The underdog has won the fight 7 out of 12 of those times. So she's coming in plus 255. She won the last fight via submission. Nunes, 21-5, 13 wins via knockout, 4 wins via submission. Former double champ. Over the last 7 years, she has wins over Valentina Shevchenko, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandame, Felicia Spencer, and Megan Anderson. She also 12-1 in that span of 7 years. So Amanda Nunes, widely thought about as one of the best women's mixed martial artists that's ever lived. And she's going up against Juliana Pena, who is a veteran of the sport. 11-4 is her record. Like I said, she won the belt in December over Nunes. She got 5 wins via submission, 3 wins via knockout. Been submitted in 2 out of 4 of her losses, and has only been knocked out once against Sarah Moraes in her 5th professional fight. She's 2-1 in the last 2 years. Got submitted by GDR, Jermaine Durandame, and then she submitted Sarah McMahon and Amanda Nunes to eventually win that women's bantamweight title. This fight's going to come down to what Amanda Nunes are we going to see here? Because, I mean, Juliana Pena, yeah, you could say she got a submission. I think she's a blue belt or purple belt to Amanda Nunes' black belt. So a lot of people were surprised that she was able to submit Amanda Nunes. The not surprising part, or the most surprising part, in my opinion, was that she, kind of dominated the striking. She was kind of beating Amanda Nunes up prior to getting the fight to the ground and submitting her. So, I think it really just depends on what Amanda Nunes we see. If we see that same Amanda Nunes, it's probably going to work out pretty much the same. Maybe she doesn't submit her this time, but I'm assuming she's probably going to win a decision just by outstriking her. So very, very, very excited to see what's going to happen there. I think also something to think about is that if Juliana Pena has been submitted twice in her career and has been knocked out by Sarah Moraes, it's very, very within the realm of possibilities that she gets knocked out by Amanda Nunes, one of the hardest hitters in that division, one of the best women fighters in the sport, not only the UFC, but in the sport. So, I mean, it's hard to pick against Nunes. I picked Nunes in the first fight. She let me down. I'm going to give her a second chance. I'm going to go Amanda Nunes via knockout probably against Juliana Pena in the second fight. Brandon Moreno versus KaraFrance, another good one. Moreno is 1-1-1 in his last 3 fights, winning against fighting to a draw against Stevenson Figueiredo, then beating him via submission, and then in his most recent fight he lost a decision to Figueiredo, which brings him back to the drawing board. He's got 11 wins via submission, has never been finished in his professional career. 19-6-2 is his pro record. His 2 draws are against Stevenson Figueiredo and then Askar Askarov. 5-1-2 in his last 8 fights with wins over KaraFrance, Josie Formiga, Brandon Royval, and then, of course, Stevenson Figueiredo. Black belt in Jiu-Jitsu is coming into this fight with a 2-inch height and a 1-inch reach advantage over KaraFrance, who is a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu, not as good on the ground. 24-9-1 is his record with 11 wins via knockout and 10 wins via decision. 7-2 is his UFC record, and he only has losses to Brandon Royval via submission, and then a decision loss to Brandon Moreno just a few years ago. He's got UFC wins over Tyson Nam, Cody Garbrandt, and Askar Askarov, and he's currently riding a 3-fight winning streak right now. So a lot of people buying into the hype. A lot of people are saying, he's a good point fighter. He's a good counter striker. How's he going to do against a guy like Moreno? Moreno is a dog, man. He's the literal definition of that Mexican-style fighting where he's tough as nails, and he's going to give you hell until the final bell. So, Dr. Seuss over here. So, I think he's just going to be too tough for KaraFrance. I think KaraFrance has broken before in the UFC. He has, Brandon Moreno broke him the first time. Brandon Royval submitted him, so was able to get him out of there pretty quickly. I'm going to have to go Moreno again, man. I think Moreno and the prediction, I don't even want to put a prediction on the way he finishes because I think Moreno could knock him out. I think Moreno could submit him, and I think Moreno could win a decision. So it's kind of tough. Oh, I said this was for the title. Yeah, there's no more contender spot. It's a tough pick, but I'm going to go Brandon Moreno, and that's going to set him up for another fight with Figueroa, which I think he deserves. I think it's kind of bullshit that he's not fighting him again because in the draw, a lot of people thought Moreno won the fight for the draw. Then he submits him in the second fight, which should solidify it for some reason, because that fight was so good. It was a really good fight when he submitted him. It was fight of the night, all that shit. But for some reason, they give Figueroa another chance at it. There's nobody else in the division, so I see why. And then he loses the decision. Instead of saying, that also one of the best fights you've ever seen. 3 incredible fights, 3 world-class fights that everybody wants to see. Back to back. Draw, win, loss. I think you would have to go to the 4th fight. I don't see why they're not. But I think a win here against KaraFrance lines him up for one. So I'm going to go Brandon Moreno. Derrick Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich. Derrick Lewis 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Got knocked out by Cyril Gane and Tai Tuivasa. The Tai Tuivasa fight was UFC 271 in February. He's 26-9-1 with 21 wins via knockout. 6 out of 9 of his losses, though, are via knockout as well. He does have a cardio problem. Later in the rounds, it's only going to be a 3-round fight, so I don't think we're going to see much of that. He's got recent UFC wins total UFC wins over Chris Daukaus, Curtis Blades, Alexei Oleinik, Francis Ngannou, Alexander Volkov, and Marcin Tybura. So, I mean, these guys are the cream of the crop. Chris Daukaus, really young guy, you can't really, I wouldn't necessarily at that time call him cream of the crop, but Curtis Blades, Alexei Oleinik, Francis Ngannou, Alexander Volkov, and Marcin Tybura. These are champions. These are veterans of the sport. These are guys that have been in the top 15 for years. So these are all really big wins for Derrick Lewis in his career. We all seen he's got that knockout power. He struggles a little bit with his cardio, but most of the time he struggles with his cardio is because of grappling. Sergey Pavlovich is a striker. He's going to come in and strike with him without a doubt. He is 15-1. With his only loss being a knockout to Alistair Overeem in his UFC debut. He's 3-1 in the UFC on a 3-fight winning streak. He's got knockout wins over Marcelo Lom, Maurice Green, who's no longer in the UFC, and then Shamil Abdurkhamov, whatever. That fight was in March. 12 out of 15 of his wins via knockout. He's took a 2.5-year layoff after his win against Green, came back, knocked out Shamil. He's the same height as Derrick Lewis, but he has a 4 to 5 inch reach advantage. So I think it's like 4.5 or so, but a significant reach advantage over Derrick Lewis, and he's the same height. I think that's Derrick Lewis is coming into this fight plus 105. Great, rightfully so, I believe. I believe if they're both good strikers, Sergey Pavlovich is a dominant striker. He's got power in his hands, and he's going to come into this fight extremely longer than Derrick Lewis, which means he's going to land his straight punches. He's going to be able to land kicks really well. And I don't think Derrick Lewis deals with that. I think it kind of goes back to like Derrick Lewis, Francis Ngannou, where they're like kind of tentative and they're trying to feel each other out a lot. But if that's the case, Sergey Pavlovich is going to touch Derrick Lewis more. So if they're just counting the touches, just like they did with Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, I think you got to give it to Pavlovich. Pavlovich also no joke. You know what? I'm switching my pick. Because you know what I just looked at? I looked at Pavlovich has fought 4 fights in the UFC. One of those guys I consider extremely respectable in that heavyweight division. He lost that fight. So I'm going Derrick Lewis. I'm going Derrick Lewis by knockout. Fucking sue me. Anthony Smith versus Magomed Ankalaev. This one, I think the odds are fucking insane. Plus 390 for Anthony Smith, who's currently fighting on a 3-fight winning streak with a submission over Devin Clark and Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann being his last fight in September. And in between that, he had a TKO win over Jimmy Crute. He's 36-16, 20 wins via knockout, 14 wins via submission. 9 out of 16 of his losses are via knockout, though. He lost the decision to John Jones in 2019 for the belt. Since then, he is 4-2, with those only 2 losses being against Glover Teixeira, who is the former champion, and then Alexander Rakic, who is also top 5. So Nothing to take away from Anthony Smith there. Anthony Smith is a dog. He's got very vicious elbows. He's a good grappler, too. He's good off his back. But Magomed Ankalaev is kind of a different story, man. He is a Sambo fighter, 17-1 professional record, only loss being a submission loss to Paul Craig, who is one of the most dominant grapplers in the light heavyweight division. I don't think Anthony Smith is quite on that level. Ankalaev is 8-1 in the UFC with an 8-fight winning streak, meaning he lost to Paul Craig in his UFC debut. He's got UFC wins over Ian Kutulaba twice, Nikita Krylov, Volkan Oezdemir, and Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos was at middleweight, though, which I believe, I like this fight. I certainly do like this fight against Ankalaev, but I am just fucking dying to see Anthony Smith versus Thiago Santos at light heavyweight. That fight was insane at middleweight. These guys not having the cut weight, being stronger, that fight's probably going to be fucking bananas at light heavyweight. I can't wait to see it once it finally happens. Ankalaev also has 9 wins via knockout and 8 wins via decision. So submissions aren't really his go-to. He likes to hold you down and kind of beat on you and fuck you up standing up. So I'm going to pick Ankalaev. I think that might have got misconstrued a little bit when I said the odds were a little out of whack. But plus minus 490, I just think it's ridiculous. If I lived in a legal state where betting was legal, I'm telling you right now, I'm throwing some money on plus 390. You put down $100 on $390, you win $390. You win almost 4 times your investment if Anthony Smith wins, and I think it's that close of a fight where I'm going to pick Ankalaev, but I do believe that Anthony Smith has a really good chance in this fight. So I would sprinkle a little bit. If I'm in Vegas, if I'm in New York, New Jersey, or whatever, I would sprinkle a little bit on this fight, but unfortunately I'm not, so I won't. I'm just going to pick Ankalaev. For the prelims, this fight, Alexander Pantoja versus Alex Perez, is going to be on the main card, I believe, but I just didn't preview it. Alex Moreno versus Matt Smelleberger. Drew Dober will be taking on Rafael Alves. Dontel Mays going up against Hambi Dawalabab. That's what I'm going to call him. Drakkar Klose will be going up against Rafa Garcia. Michael Morales returning back to the UFC. He's fighting Adam Fugit. Jocelyn Edwards going up against Ji Yun Kim. Nicolette Nigarinu will be taking on Ihor Patrea. Fuck these names, man. Fucking Ivan Peters or some shit like that. Fucking Ihor Patrea. Fuck, man. Orion Kosi will be taking on Mike Blood Diamond Mathea. So that rounds out. That's going to be opening up the card. Stay tuned next Tuesday. I'll be previewing another UFC card. If there's no UFC, which I fucking doubt it, because these guys are, when I can fucking pull it up right here, snappy in a flash for you. List of UFC events. I know people say don't use Wikipedia, but they're pretty fucking spot on with their UFC event page, I must say. We got July 30th to August 6th, 7 days. Yeah, so they're going back to the Apex for Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. I have to be completely candid with everybody. I would have much rather seen, I do like both of those fights. I like the Santos-Hill fight, and I like Ankalaev versus Smith fight, but I would have much rather seen Anthony Smith versus Thiago Santos and Jamal Hill versus Ankalaev. That would have pleased me a little bit more. I can see why they did it the way they did, but it is what it is. Until next Tuesday, guys, stay barbecued. You guys know what the fuck it is. Holla at your boy.